The drug war being fought in Afghanistan has been destructive and has not produced the results many were hoping for. The question of whether or not America should continue to be involved in the struggle has been raised, and there is no clear answer. Both sides of the debate have raised many points and rebuttals. Although the war is dangerous and expensive, letting the drug lords roam unchallenged will be far more costly. Three of the most powerful and persuasive arguments are as follows. The Taliban makes most of its profits through the opium and heroin trade. Over 90% of the world's opium is grown in Afghanistan, which affects the United States as well as the rest of the world. And much of the world's heroin is produced from Afghani opium and kills more people than the actual war itself will.
Debates similar to this conflict are never one-sided. As one side presents an argument, another will counter it. People say we should drop out of this drug war because it is a waste of money and Afghanistan is still producing more opium than the world demands. On the other hand, if we do drop out of the drug war, Afghanistan will produce so much excess opium that prices worldwide will drop and the problem will only get worse. People argue, how can we possibly justify this war when a Salon News article wrote, after investing $3 billion in Afghanistan's destruction, Washington just walked away in 1992, leaving behind a thoroughly ravaged country with over 1 million dead, 5 million refugees, 10 to 20 million landmines still in place, an infrastructure in ruins, an economy in tatters, and a well-armed tribal warlords prepared to fight among themselves for control of the capital. The justification of this war is easily backed up by how much destruction the Taliban has already inflicted upon Afghanistan. Many people die and many more will die if the funding of the Taliban is not cut off from the source being the opium production in Afghanistan. Many arguments can be brought forth from both sides, yet with America's worldly obligation, there is only one definitive answer. Do not back out of this war.
As the opium drug trade generates more profits, the Taliban is able to regain its strength because of its deep connections with the drug lords of Afghanistan. This creates a serious security problem within the region. Afghanistan today has a population where most of its people are forced to live a poverty-stricken lifestyle. If this is the case, then how is it that the Taliban is able to fund its forces with guns, ammunition, supplies, and an upper-class lifestyle, at least for the senior-ranking Talibs? The answer lies within the poppy fields spread throughout Afghanistan. Since 2006, the opium farms in Afghanistan have supported 500,000 Afghan families and funded a Taliban insurgency that has spread across the countryside, states Alfred McCoy of the Salon newspaper. People are so desperate in Afghanistan. They are willing to do whatever it takes in order to feed and support their families, even if it means being the basic labor force behind the illegal opium market that funds the Taliban, which ends up oppressing the farmers anyway. With so many farmers working the poppy fields in Afghanistan, the supply of the opium, therefore, has also increased. McCoy reports that the amount of opium harvested was approximately 8,200 tons in 2007. By 2011, there is no doubt that this number has increased. With the incredible influence and strength that the drug lords who own the opium farms have over the Afghans, they form a trade-off with the Taliban. The Taliban receives a portion of the profits from the drug trade, and the drug lords are able to remain in power, much like small city-states inside of one country, as was done in the Middle Ages. The opium drug trade has given the Taliban their power back once again. This creates another major problem that the United States and its allies need to face in order to bring down the Taliban and restore legitimacy to Afghanistan.
With the vast majority of the world's opium coming from Afghanistan, around 90%, it is vital that the United States, as well as the international community, make sure that the amount of opium being grown and coming out of Afghanistan gets decreased significantly. If the amount of opium coming out of Afghanistan is significantly decreased, there is a potential for saving millions of lives who die from opium-related deaths every year. However, with corruption taking place on a massive scale in Afghanistan, the US and NATO forces are hindered in their duty to eradicate the opium in Afghanistan. Since the United States and NATO forces invaded Afghanistan in 2001, forces have tried their best to eradicate the opium crop, to no avail, of course. However, since the new government in Afghanistan has taken over from the Taliban, corruption has engulfed the government. The Afghan government has ties to drug lords throughout the country in the ability that Afghanistan government will at least give the drug lords time to move their supplies of opium, or if necessary, fight. Corruption is a huge priority that the U.S. needs to take care of in Afghanistan. It is preventing the U.S., NATO, and DEA forces in Afghanistan to do their jobs, removing opium from the black market. It is the obligation and the responsibility of the U.S. to remove corruption in the Afghan government to overall benefit the war in Afghanistan, not just the movement to destroy the opium fields. But now, U.S. needs to find a way to get the opium fields without any interference by the Afghan government. By not destroying the crop may be the best solution for the United States for the long run. With the threat of poppy fields getting razed to the ground, farmers will overproduce to ensure that they do not lose too much product, an effect that really defeats the purpose of the destruction of the opium crop. Yes, there will be increased production today, and the Taliban will grow quicker in the short term. Long term, there is a possibility that the crop will degrade in value as it did before the initial U.S. invasion in 2001. According to Moriah Rusin, in an article published by the LA Times in 2009, farmers will naturally overproduce, stocks of stored opium will accumulate, prices will fall further, and farmers will eventually abandon the crop of their own free will. This has helped to bring down the Taliban when the United States invaded in 2001, and it can help bring down the Taliban once again. However, the cooperation between Afghans and the U.S. forces needs to exist at the same time for the sake of the overall security. In an article published by CBS News on April 1st, 2010, the author states that opium seizures in Afghanistan soared to about 924% last year because of better cooperation between Afghan and international forces between 2008 and 2009. If the Afghan government is able to fully function without the temptation that corrupt drug money warlords bring to the table, there is the possibility that this percentage can increase to an even more dramatic rate. Afghanistan and the U.S. needs to continue to address this social and economical dilemma that faces both parties.
There is also the moral dilemma that the United States needs to face while fighting in this drug war. Heroin and other related drugs are being manufactured from Afghan opium, an epidemic that is killing thousands of people every day all around the world. According to the NIHA, the approximate number of deaths caused by heroin was 213,000 in 2008, just in the United States alone. It is almost certain that this number has increased after 3 years just in the U.S., not to mention worldwide. This is murder on a massive scale, much to the thanks of the Afghan warlords that supply drug organizations worldwide with opium to create heroin. The assistance of U.S. and NATO forces in Afghanistan have saved thousands of lives since 2006 and 2007, when opium production began to increase, as well as the influence and power of the Taliban. Moriah Rusin reports that this year, which was 2009, the United Nations issued 2 reports suggesting significant drops in opium crop cultivation. If what the United States is doing in Afghanistan is working, the efforts to continue to crack down on opium production needs to increase even more than what is already happening. The United States always prides itself on being the world's policeman. Well, now it is the time that the protector of the world starts to save innocent lives from the mercy of heroin. The United States has already done a lot to limit the production of opium in the country that produces the most of the addictive crop. But does that really give solace to the millions of families who suffer from losing a loved one from this lethal drug?
This is the story of one of these families. On Valentine's Day 2011, Brianna Jawari was found lifeless on her bedroom floor. She overdosed on heroin, leading to her death. Her father tried to save her and did all he could, but by that point she had already passed away. Brianna's close friend Erica was found dead just 2 days later. She had also died from heroin overdose. Erica would have turned 20 that Sunday. Heroin and possibly other opiates claimed these 2 girls' lives within 1 week. Preventing opiates from leaving Afghanistan has caused countless deaths in the United States and the rest of the world. There is a strong possibility that if the war in Afghanistan had received more support, Erica would have been able to celebrate her 20th birthday party with all of her friends, including Brianna. She was very intelligent, Brianna's father said. She was on the debate team and one of the most loving and smart people she knew. Sam Jawari, Brianna's father, has not only lost a beloved daughter, but also a wife to heroin. One family lost 2 members to drugs that were most likely shipped from Afghanistan. The Jawari family would still be together today if the drug war in Afghanistan had been successful.